you, sir. So, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and a very warm welcome to a webinar on India's demographic dividend, leveraging population for national growth. Today, as we commemorate this World Population Day, we are reminded that India's population, despite its challenges, represent a wealth of opportunities which is crucial for our national development. Sir, can you please unmute? I'm so sorry. Uh, While it is true that managing such a large and diverse population presents its challenges, it is equally important to recognize and capitalize on the positive factors it embodies. Today, we are all here for this webinar to recognize and to capitalize the India's demographic dividend, which is strategically very vital for various sectors. India's demographic dividend stands as a beacon of promise amidst global demographic trends. Our youthful population not only signifies numerical strength, but also embodies potential innovation and dynamism. The dividend, if harnessed collectively and effectively, we can be a transformative force in driving the economic growth and social progress. With this, I would like to start the webinar by introducing our first speaker, Ms. Andresha Hazarika. She is an assistant professor at Gujarat University. She is a researcher on Indo-Pacific studies and has previously pursued her MPhil from the same domain from Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. Previously, she was an assistant professor at the University of Science and Technology in Meghalaya and Karunavati University, Gujarat. I would now like to welcome ma'am, please.
Hello, am I audible and visible? Just a hands up might help. Yes, I am. Okay. Good evening, everyone, especially the organizers of this event, this webinar actually, Mr. Siddharth and Kritika. Thank you for having me among such a vibrant panel of speakers. And thank you all of you, the guest, apart from the guest, all the audience here. Thank you for joining us. I was not sure if I am to go first, but now that you have put me in the spot, nonetheless, I'll start. So today actually is World Population Day, right? If I'm not wrong. I actually opened the papers today and realized why you all are hosting this event. And I was actually informed of it a little, the time span was a little shorter, for which I in earnest would not go very deep into the subject because the time span was short. And nonetheless, sticking to the topic, when we are today commemorating the World Population Day, India's population advantage is something that all of us need to be sort of aware of and see as to how can we harness the potential into something that is beneficial for our economy and the world in general. I would be speaking about the economic aspects of the population advantage, and specifically talking about how the 5 trillion economic vision that our current government for the past this is the third iteration of the government that is in power for the past two terms of its governance. It has been visualizing or envisioning a 5 trillion economy by the end of the Amrit Kal, which is 2047. To begin with, what exactly is the 5 trillion economic vision? Now, India currently stands at the world's 5th largest economic power. All of us are well aware of it, and we are just trailing behind US, China, Japan, and Germany. By financial year 2028, our government claims, and we would want ourselves to become the 3rd largest economy with a GDP of about 5 trillion, and by financial year 2047, India shall become a developed developed economy of a GDP comprising of a GDP of around 30 million. The vision of Viksit Bharat that all of us, are working towards. Now, in this span of the Amrit Kal, which is from 2023 to 2047, the India of the 100, which would also be the 100th year of India's independence, the economic vision is centered around certain particular developments in the economic sector. I would like to sort of speak about them first, and then maybe talk about the demographic advantages in the particular sector. First is the government giving a lot of impetus to the sunrise industries. By sunrise industries, I mean the new industries, especially in the telecommunication and the electronic segment. The agriculture economic scenario has now changed from a more farm production kind of a model to a more income generative model. The manufacturing sector, which accounts for the largest employment in any developing economy, India has made very, very clear policies to sort of boost that particular sector. In 2014, we had the Make in India scheme, and more recently, the production-linked incentive scheme, which has been focusing on export-centric manufacturing bases in India, and has been able to give certain results in the past 4 to 5 years of its implementation. The mature trade policies that our trade bureaucracy and the government have come up with, and have sort of detached from a more protectionist kind of a trade policy to a more autonomous and well embedded autonomic kind of a trade policy, to a more facilitative industrial policy that would leverage more FDIs and MNC presence in India, so on and so forth, and not forgetting the services sector, which contributes hugely to our GDP growth. The center has formulated an action plan which would sort of focus on the 12 identified champion services sector. Now, all of these make India very, very, ready, or you place India at a global footing where our policies are well tuned to attract more investments and gain more from the current growth path trajectory that we have been seeing after the recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. How has the consumer market reacted to it? Our demographic dividend can only react positively if the consumer market is well equipped and is ready enough to accept the growth that is being reflected in the policies. So yes, the consumer market has also become one of the third largest consumer market in the world. The Indian consumer market is poised to actually become the third largest consumer market by 2027, and the household consumption that has nearly doubled in the past decade is only reflecting of the youthfulness and the demographic shift that the consumer market has seen. Only reflects the positive impact that it has on the market. Including the rise in income levels, a young demographic and increasing urbanization, growing affluence amongst the middle class, and having a larger disposable income, digitization, the growth of e-commerce, all of these has made India's consumer market a sort of, a thriving one, and it has driven a domestic consumption quite positively. How has the workforce expansion, happened all this while? Indian workforce is young and will remain young in the next few decades. This is a trend that is not seen in some other countries like China, Japan, or the European Union. So this is something that separates India from the advanced economies. By 2030, which is like 6 years from now, most countries around the world will be aged, will have middle-aged population or elderly workforce, whereas India will still be young. For example, the European Union and the European Commission, without migration, the working population is going to shrink by around 96 million workers by 2060, whereas in India, it is only going to rise. However, even though it is a sign of positivity, there are certain bottlenecks which Indian labor force presents itself with. First is the low participation rate as of now, which is only around 50%. And the female labor participation, this trend is mostly seen in the female labor participation indicators. Female participation is lesser, and over the years it has improved, but with the coming of the COVID pandemic and the fragilities that the economy had gone through, the female labor market participation did not increase as much as it was envisaged. Second point is the transition away from the non-farm sectors from farm sectors to the non-farm sectors, basically. The transition has been slow and steady, but it has increased quite a bit after the 2019 pandemic. So that is an upside. There is increase in self-employment, and but that increase in self-employment is mostly seen where women are getting more and more employed. Okay. And as usual, in India, there is a lot of disguised unemployment and unpaid family work that is still going on. Incremental employment after 2019 in the self-employment sector, as I said just now, it is mostly women that can be seen in this sector. So digitization and the digital India and all of that have impacted positively, but there is a road way ahead. And the industrial employment and the manufacturing sector still needs to tap in a lot of skilled employers, which is a gap that India still needs to fill in quite hugely. Last but not the least, I would like to end my speech or my intervention with a positive affirmation that yes, India remains poised to reap its demographic dividend, but skilling, technological change, digitization, a demand for skills, all of that need to be taken into account. Regional trends need to be observed. State-wise, the trends differ quite heavily. We stay in a state, I come from a state where, like Gujarat, where there is a lot of industrial development. We've had a lot of FDIs coming in. Last year, when the Vibrant Gujarat Summit had taken place, our Honorable Finance Minister had, praise the development that Gujarat has undertaken over the past 10 years or so. And our particular state has been able to make that leap quite faster. But the regional trends across this country do not speak of an equanimity. So yes, all of that need to be taken account. And last but not the least, we as youth of this country have to take upon ourselves to sort of keep discussing, researching, and working towards this goal of youth becoming more and more skilled and more digitized in a day and age where without digital interventions, things don't work. So
Ma'am, I think she has some network issues. Can you hear us, ma'am?
Network issue from her end. We can move to the second speaker, and she can be called once her connection stabilizes.
Okay, sure. Um, As ma'am has also mentioned about the workforce, here we can surely cannot leave the invaluable contribution of the Indian diaspora as a crucial asset for national growth and examining their economic impact, the global influence, and them being the ambassador of India's soft power. To talk more on that, I would now like to invite Mr. Rajkumar. He's an assistant professor at the School of International Studies and Diaspora at Gujarat University and a PhD scholar of diaspora studies from the Central University of Gujarat. He has made multiple presentations in the national conferences and as well as international conferences. Mr. Raj has also represented Gandhinagar district as a delegate in the National Youth Parliament organized by the Ministry of Youth and Sports by the Government of India. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Raj.
Thank you so much, Kritika, and other people of your team also, like Siddharth. And this topic is very relevant in the this particular time when we are seeing this term of Modi, who is constantly talking about engaging diaspora. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. So in this kind of time when we know that India is actually doing very good in almost all the sectors, so engaging your diaspora, which is a very important part of your overall, we can say the population which is there. But when we talk about this idea of demographic dividend, or when we talk about having a kind of a working age group, like more people are there to work for your country. On the other side, dependency ratio is very low. So this is the high time for India to think about all these developments, because at least for next 30 years, this trend is going to be there. So if we can capitalize this particular thing, then all the objectives, as Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji talks about, that we can fulfill by 2047, those interest things can be fulfilled. So by keeping all these things in mind, what I think that this around 33 million Indians living outside the country, they can play very important role. When you talk about population, like if you simply ignore them, or if you're not able to use them, in the welfare of your country or overall national interest, then it can also become a kind of hurdle in the development. But if you're able to capitalize them, then they can anytime be used for the welfare of the country, whether it's about soft power or in some other sectors, they can be useful. But the most important thing in this particular regard is skill and education. You have to provide skill and education to them. If you are able to provide them this particular thing, then you can go ahead with the positive aspect of it. So Anivisha ma'am is back. Like if you want to continue with her.
Ma'am, if you have any comments left to make, then maybe you can complete them now.
I'm so sorry I got disconnected in between, but I was almost done with my intervention, so maybe we can continue.
Okay, if there is any other comments, then we can take up in the Q&A session afterwards. Thank
Sure.
you.
Thank you so much. So when we talk about diaspora, mainly movement of people from one country to other, so there was a time when people used to call it brain drain. That brain is training, it's going out of your country. But now we have started talking about brain gain. That no, even if they leave your country, they're beneficial for you in economic domain, in social domain, in cultural domain, in technological domain, in industrial domain, and almost all the sectors. And that has been the journey of Indian diaspora also. When we talk about this, their history and everything, so they have been very useful for us. Nowadays people have started accepting that this population is also the wealth of nation, that they can be used as the wealth of nation according to the requirements. Regarding this particular thing only, William Petty argued that the strength of the kingdom doesn't lie in the size of the territory, but by the value of the people. So this value of the people is very important here. When we talk about the earlier theories of population studies like Malthus, he used to see this population growth very negatively. He said that population plays kind of role of a hurdle in the development of a country. While some other scholars, Easter, Bosrup and others, they started accepting that no, population can be used for the welfare of the country. It's up to you how you want to actually use them. So all these things were happening, and this population was becoming a very important thing for the discussion when we talk about this overall population study. So as far as Indian diaspora is concerned, no doubt these 33 million people are very important. They have played that sort of role that you cannot simply ignore them. There has been time in the history that they have been ignored, and that was the time when we struggled the most, whether economically, socially, or in any other domains of the we can say development prospects. So diaspora, this the word came from Greek word disperion, which means dispersion. That moving dispersion, like moving from one place to other for multiple regions. Initially, when we talk about it, we talk about Jewish diaspora, which was actually, these people were expelled from their homeland. So that was a different kind of diaspora. But when we talk about overall history of diaspora, then initially slavery was the tool, was the way of taking people from one place to another. But as soon as this slavery ended by the international, we can say, commitment or international recognition by the countries, after that, all these people started talking about some other way of moving people from one place to another. And that time, the countries like British and other people, because they were colonial powers and they had the strength to make decisions. So they introduced another system that is called indentured system. That on the basis of a contract of maybe 5 years or 10 years, people will move from one place to other, like for economic gains of these colonial powers only. So that was another time when Indians were also sent to some other countries, to some other developing, or we can say not developing countries of that time, because all the resources were going to this powerful countries only. So that time also, like, these people were migrated, but they were not given that sort of role which they required actually. And after that, slowly, when this India got the freedom, at that point of time, in the initial phase, most of these migrants were unskilled in nature. So the nature of the migration was unskilled. Whenever they used to go out, they were seen as a threat by those societies. As in the Metro of Canada, they used to call Indians as yellow peril, that they are peril, they are danger for us. And yellow because of the kind of yellow turbans Sikhs used to wear at that point of time. Same happened in America also. They used to call us Asian American, not even Indian American. That was their mentality, that they were not even able to differentiate between India and other Asian countries. So that was a time when these people were not respected. They were given very less importance at that point of time. Then semi-skilled migration started taking place, that now they started getting some sort of respectable jobs there. But there came a time when government started taking them seriously, and skilled migration started taking place. That was the time when Indian diaspora started very good. And still we are getting advantage of all these things, because most of the people who are migrating nowadays are related to IT sector or some other in the industrial this thing. So they are doing really very good. And as far as India's approach is concerned, in the earlier phase, when these people were not very important, were not considered very important by the government, so these people were given very less importance. So that was the time when we actually neglected this diaspora. And that was the time when these people also had to struggle a lot. But slowly they started doing good. So there was a time when Jawaharlal Nehru was the prime minister, and he adopted this active disassociation, the kind of we can say theory of diaspora, that we don't want to associate with themselves, because he had this mentality that if you do it, then maybe some other countries where these diasporas are living, they will feel negative about it, that we are intervening in their internal matter. But these people belong to us. They were part of our larger identity. So we simply ignoring them actually resulted in negative experiences of our diaspora also, like 1964, when 3 lakh Indians were thrown out of Myanmar. No kind of guarantee was given to them, no rights, nothing. And they had to, some had to return back to India, some had to go to some other countries also. And same happened in Uganda, 1971, when their leader, Idi Amin, he just saw a dream. And he saw that Indians are going to betray. And he started killing them as soon as he woke up in the morning. And at that time, Indian government never supported them. So in such situation, in that kind of, with such kind of historical experiences, when they were not respected in their host land, when they were not accepted by their, we can say, homeland, in such situation, how could we think about, gaining some kind of economic benefits or any other kind of benefits from such people. So such kind of experiences they were having. But after some years, when Rajiv Gandhi became the prime minister, he started associating himself with the diaspora, and he started using them for the economic and technological gains. Actually, when he talked about this technological, this thing, computerization and everything, at that point of time, he took help of Indian diaspora who are working in American, we can say the IT centers and other places. And he took help from those people to establish places like this, whatever, like IT sectors we have developed, and they did very good also. That we will discuss in details. So slowly, Indian diaspora, they started getting what they deserved, and that was the time when India also started uh, getting from them. So this from slavery to skilled, this journey was very important from here, and that also shows the shift of Indian orientation towards the diaspora, that we started respecting them. If you cannot respect your people, then you cannot expect others to do so. So that was the story. And as far as this whole thing is concerned, I would like to share two experiences, or we can say two case studies with you. So one case study is Tandil community. Tandil community is the community of Daman. And when Portuguese were there in the, as the empire, they gave them a special this thing, that these people, yeah, so that these people can come to Europe and stay there whenever they want. So they put some conditions, but after that they got this right. So these people started moving to Europe. They just go from Portugal and some other countries, and then finally they settle in Leicester, UK, and they became very powerful also there. So this is the best example how diaspora has contributed in the development of the community, philanthropic development, economic development, social development in almost every sector. They are very powerful there. They are very influential. Their number is also very good, and that is the reason when there is some signboard that is put there. So in Gujarati also that particular thing is written. Like Gujaratis, they have this pan masala kind of thing. So they will write in Gujarati, ki pan masala thukna mana hai, kind of thing, thukna mana hai. So this is how it is. But other than that, that can be a negative example. But positive example is that Tandil community people always, every single day, they make rangoli outside their house. Same practice, the same thing has been practiced in Leicester also. So it shows that some sort of cultural connectivity is also there. So they are representing India there. They are showing Indian image there. So that is another thing. So the Tandil community is very important. Their Machi Mahajan Samaj, it works very, efficiently, and they do very good thing also. And after coming from there, like they don't want to settle to all those places. They go there, they get the economic this thing and return back and invest here only. So they have developed their own businesses and they are doing very, very good. Okay. After that, Indians in US, have faced a different kind of journey actually. Their journey began when they started calling themselves American. They said, we are Americans, we are not Indians. There was a time when Indians used to think, okay, when we talk about, Indians in America, so Americans used to feel, negative about Indian society, that if we associate us with them, Indians, then in such situation, they will not be given that kind of respect. So this journey is from Americans to proud Americans to proud Indians. This journey is from unskilled to skilled migration, and this journey is from is the recognition, respect. So that kind of journey they have faced. They have played very important, kind of role whenever India needed them, as in the case of civil nuclear deal and post this nuclear bomb blast conducted by India, the nuclear test conducted by India. So all these things were very important, but now they are highly respected. They have played very important role in the economic, technological, and in other sectors also, development of India. And also politically, they are very powerful. They lobby for India sometimes. All these things we are going to discuss in the next part. And also in the party politics, we can say shaping the public opinion of the country. So that's why these people have done very good. As far as Indian government is concerned, no doubt they have done very good in last few years. When we talk about overall, we can say approach of India. So initially we were not very keen to help these people, but we can say Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the first prime minister who actually took them seriously. And what Narendra Modi is doing is to just extend all those initiatives that he had taken, whether it's about PVD or some other things, whether it's about some other policies like this No India program, this like role of Pravasi Bhartiyas in vibrant Gujarat, or when we talk about Modi's 5I model. So there also he, used this our diasporic population in a very efficient way, and that's why they are able to contribute for the country also. So all these things resulted in very good this thing. So like after Modi started engaging them, when Sushma Swaraj used to say that even if you are on moon or some other planet, you are just one tweet away from the help from our embassy. So that's how it should be done. They should be feeling confident about their people. Only then they can contribute for the country also. So that happened, and slowly we started talking about wherever our prime minister went, and that was the time when this Bharat Ko Jano online quiz competition was also started, and all these things. Whenever they faced any problem in any country, so we were there to help them. Whether it's about Sankat Mochan, kind of initiative taken by India whenever they faced any problem, or airlifting, and all other kind of initiatives were taken by us. So we have done very good, and that's the reason why these people are also ready to contribute for the country. Now I'll particularly talk about the some of the we can say the benefits that we have got, and the kind of sectors that we can utilize in coming time, also capitalize in coming times also. So technological sector is one of the very important sectors that can never be ignored. When we talk about technological sector, then knowledge transfer was very important. When Rajiv Gandhi started talking about computers and technology and everything, he did not have any model in his hand. And that was the time when he started taking the help of Indian diaspora. In the particular thing, there were so many organizations that were working there, and they also played guiding role in India, like Silicon Valley Indian Professional Association and the Indus Entrepreneurs. They played guiding role there. They suggested the policy changes. They told us how to go ahead with kind of this economic liberalization process that we had to do later on, and the kind of Silicon Valley kind of functions it was doing at that time. On the model of that only, this Bengaluru, Hyderabad, and Gurugram kind of things were shaped. So diaspora was there to tell us that which are the do's or don'ts at that point of time, and we were able to capitalize them. That's why we were able to do good also in this particular thing. Some other we can say so kind of companies also that are directly or indirectly associated with diasporic population, they are doing very good. They get the guidance or whenever they need, and other than that, they also get financial assistance whenever needed. Like this Flipkart, Ola, Swiggy, Zolo, all these things are doing very good Indian startups. Okay, but this knowledge transfer thing is very important, and India has actually capitalized it in a very good way. Then economic gain thing, where we all know that from 2016 only, in most of the years, we are the highest remittances getting country, and I think last year it crossed 120 billion US dollar also. So that way we are doing very good, and this is a huge amount in when we compare it to the GDP of India. And in 2015, that is the good thing about this government, that in 2050, government decided that any kind of remittances or any investment sent by the diaspora should not be considered as FDI, but a domestic investment only. If you do it, then all the restraints are gone. Now they don't have to think about all those 20,000 rules and regulations, all those signatures and everything. So they can simply think about just sending money to their parents and whatever they want to do with that. So all these things started, and that's why we started getting this much amount. That 2016 only we surpassed China and became the first this thing country to. I think at that time we got 68 US billion dollar. So this is how we are going ahead with it, and it plays very important role as well. And this particular amount has helped us in managing this balance of payment and current account deficit thing, and we are doing very good in that also. Other than that, they have very good understanding of Indian market. When you compare Indian diaspora, the investment done by Indian diaspora and some other firms, maybe MNCs or other kind of companies. So Indian diaspora people are more intelligent. They know what are the weaknesses of Indian market. They know what are the strengths, the labor, this and that, everything they know. So they very intelligently they contribute for this particular thing, and that's why whatever they have, we can say invested, that is going in the right side. So that is another thing that they have very good, understanding, and that's why they make these rational investments. And they are drivers of change. I personally believe that the kind of changes that are taking place in the country, diaspora has played very key role in it. Whether it's about social sector, economic sector, technological sector, political sector, they are the people who have given a kind of view to the people here. When you talk about Indian society, I'm not just talking about this 10, 15 years, but I'm talking about 70 years, maybe more than that also. So our people living in India have learned from diaspora experiences. And that's why if we keep learning all these things in coming time also, we will be doing very good. Then their image shapes our profile. This is one of the most important things when we talk about diaspora. Their image, Indian diaspora's image is the thing which shapes our understanding, like our profile, our image also. The way they act, the way they behave, the way they, we can say represent us. So that's why when you we can say invest in diaspora, they are going to give you something in that. Okay. So that was the thing that their image is very important. As far as Chinese diaspora image is concerned, that is very considered very good. And China has to invest, give a particular money to improve the image of the people. Okay, but India doesn't need to do that. It's happening itself because we are represented by our habits, our behaviors, and we don't create any problems, in any country. If you look at the kind of, okay, these criminal activities, terrorist activities, Indians are like not, keen to taking part in all these things, and that's why Indian diaspora is highly respected. On the other hand, they have worked as a bridge between homeland and host. As this Swadesh Chatterjee wrote a book called Building Bridges. So he tells how Indian diaspora has played very important role for India as far as this civil nuclear deal is concerned, or this nuclear test conducted by India is concerned. So he clearly highlights how, like, he has given the commentaries of all the people, the parliamentarians of that time, and how they used to see this whole thing of civil nuclear deal, because civil nuclear deal was not simply a kind of deal which took place, but that was a kind of official acceptance from American side that India can be part of energy. So in that larger picture, if we look at this particular thing, then Indian diaspora played very active role, very important role, and therefore Indian diaspora cannot be simply ignored. And they work as a pressure group. So if you help them in coming times, you will also get helped by them. So I think, yeah, this much from my side. Thank you so much for inviting me. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Just short on time. I was just about to tell you that we are short on time. So, moving on, when we are talking about such large population, we cannot leave behind India's uh, deserving candidature for permanent seat in UNSC, and to consider how our demographic strength can strengthen the international security and the global governance. So, to talk more on this, I would now like to invite Avanish Kumar. He's a researcher on Gandhian thought and peace studies at the Central University of Gujarat. Formerly, he was a guest faculty at Delhi University and contributed as teaching assistant at Ahmedabad University. His areas of interest include international relations, peace and conflict, South Asian region studies, and United Nations and Peacekeeping Mission, which he has also submitted his PhD for. Now, I would like to hand over to Avinash, sir.
Thank you, Pritika. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. First, I would like to thanks to the entire team for organizing this beautiful event. And this topic has much more relevance in the contemporary time. So, especially I'm talking about the India's claim for a permanent seat in the USC. India is having population of more than 140 crore people, and India is not part of this UNSC permanent member. So this debate has been surrounding since many years, that the present government has continuously emphasized, and our foreign minister and our prime minister has continuously looking for India's permanent seat in the UNSC. So talking about the brief history of India's association with the United Nations, then India was one of the founding member of the UN, and several initiatives that has been launched by UN in the past, including United Nations Peacekeeping Mission, its Millennium Development Goal (SDGs), its several summits on climate change. India has been actively part of all these events. When United Nations was formed in 1945, India was not independent at that time. But despite this, India was one of the founding member of this United Nations. Then India was also non-permanent member of the UNSC 8 times before that. In the last time, 2021, when India was one of the non-permanent members of this UNSC. So a lots of debate and discussion going on right now that India should be a part of this UNSC. But if you will go back to the history, then initially in the 1950 and then again in 1955, India was offered to get this seat. But in the 1950, it was offered by USA. Then in 1955, again, USSR first invited to get the permanent seat in the UNSC. But at that time, late former Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru refused to be part of this. And today, this debate is also going on whether how much it is accurate that India has denied actually that permanent seat. But if you will go through the statement of Shashi Tharoor, who was earlier Under Secretary General of United Statement in 2004, he clearly stated that Nehru has declined a US offer. And in his book, again, Nehru, the Invention of India, Shashi Tharoor has briefly mentioned that how Nehru was not in favor of India, that India should be a part of permanent member in the UNSC. Rather than India, he has put forwarded the name of China, that we are not capable enough to get that seat. Rather than China is one of the country who deserves more. Then again in 1955, when Russia offered the seat, then again Nehru refused that. He was looking this in from a geopolitical perspective, that India should not be part of this as Security Council member. At there was continuously conflict going on between USA and Russia. Two blocks were created, so India rather opted to remain not part of this Security Council. And now we are continuously emphasizing that India should be a member of permanent member. There are several factors behind this why we deserve this seat. I will brief this more on that. So India's approach to the peacekeeping United Nations and its Security Council is based on 5S, that includes respect, Samman, then dialogue, Samvad, cooperation, that is Sahyog, peace, Shanti, prosperity, Samriddhi. And this is one of the India's cardinal principle. India has continuously emphasized on these 5 terms: Samman, Samvad, Sahyog, Shanti, and Samriddhi. And this is also the principles, one of the principles of the India's foundation of that Panchshil. Then what is the strong case for India's permanent seat? Why India is looking for it? We are talking today and we are discussing about the India's demographic dividend. Then India is second most populous country across globe. Soon we are going to the one of the largest members. then India also represent 1/6 of the global population. Then how can you keep India apart? And how can we even just discuss that India should not be part of this permanent seat? Again, ma'am has also just talked about India is one of the fifth largest economy, and as per our Prime Minister vision, soon we are going to the third largest economy. Then India is also one of the fastest growing economy. Then, since independence, India has adopted a independent foreign policy. We are not part of either of the bloc, whether we talk about the US bloc or Russia bloc, USSR bloc. India has adopted NAM rather than opting any foreign countries or Western countries or even USSR bloc. Then again, India in 1998, under the Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee, India has successfully launched tested its nuclear weapon. Then India acquired the status of nuclear weapon states also. Then with passage of time, India has also become an international profile, and its capability has risen over a period of time. And our Prime Minister has already stated that we are, by 2047, we are going to be the developed countries. So we have a strong case for this permanent membership. Apart from this, India has also remained the undisputed leader of the third world countries. India has a great support from the South Asian countries, exception Pakistan is the exception here. Then again, India has a strong support from African continent. These countries has continuously emphasized and supported India as member for the permanent seat. Then why we are discussing about this? What are the benefit that we are getting from this permanent seat? Then actually, when any country become these permanent members, then it will provide much needed leverage to expand its geopolitical and geo-economical cloud globally. Further, it will transform from being a responsible stakeholder along with becoming a global rule maker. Then also it will ensure that India's interests are not getting sacrificed. It further it would also serve as an equalizer to China, its rival and emerging hegemony in Asia, and ever increasing strategic and security concern in its immediate neighborhood and beyond. Further, India will be one of the most effective countries who can respond to the several international challenges, which includes the several ongoing conflicts. Then terrorism-related challenges. India has remained one of the victimized of terrorism since long, and the ongoing conflict between Ukraine, Russia, Israel, Palestine. All the conflicts are going on, and the role of United Nations is almost null and void. They are just passing the resolution. Either of the country, whether US or USSR, is using veto, and this puts also forward the strong case of reform of United Nations. Then again, what are the roadblocks in India's getting permanent members? Why it is so challenged to get permanent seat in the UNSC? Then first and foremost thing is the veto power of the P5 members. Within P5 members, China is one of the biggest hurdle in front of India, because China do not want at all to India, so that India can become a permanent member. It will likely put a equal to China in this, not only in this South Asian region, but also globe, and it will likely dilute its agenda of Pakistan. Pakistan has a strong association with China, and uh, it will likely put a major problem in front of China to make a balance between both of these states. Then another major roadblocks in front of India is getting permanent seat is Kashmir issues. Kashmir issues has yet not diluted. A peacekeeping mission is already working on between India and Pakistan. So Kashmir issues internationally has been recognized by several countries. Kashmir issues is one of the issues that has been continuously raised by Pakistan at the international forum. So this Kashmir issues is one of the major roadblocks. Then next is proliferating nuclear powers. India is not signatory to the Non-Proliferation Treaty and Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty (CTBT). So this would likely create a major problem in front of India to get this permanent seat. Then there are several competition from the other countries also. Many other countries, including Germany, Japan, Brazil, then African countries, is also looking for the permanent membership. I will discuss about G4 countries especially later on. But these are some of the challenges which are in front of India of getting permanencies, as there are several other competitors in front of India. Then again, there are several indicators which shows that India has major pitfall, like in HDI, Human Development Index. India has not a good rank. Then again, in hunger index, India is also on the bottom. And then again, India's capacity to project its military power beyond the Indian Ocean region is still to be tested. So these are some of the major roadblocks. Then talking about the strategic alliance, to India has created some strategic alliance to associated with some other countries to get this permanent seat, and this will also pave a platform to get this seat of the permanent UNSC. Then India has created G4 countries, in which it includes India, Germany, Japan, and Brazil. But even though these all four countries have created the G4, but there are also several problems within this. For example, China has made a strong reservation that Japan should not be the part of this G4, as China and Japan has a very even they don't have any relation at all. So China has a strong objection on Japan. Then again, Germany, talking about the Germany, then countries like United Nations and France both are permanent member and has a strong reservation on Germany. Even countries like Spain and Italy has made uh, a strong uh, stand that Germany should not be part of this. Then again, countries like just I talked about that China has a strong. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, you are.
Okay, okay. China has a strong reservation on Japan. Then talking about Brazil, then countries like Argentina, Mexico, and many other countries has made strong strong stand that Brazil should not be the part of this UNSC permanent members. Then again, there are several differences going on in African nation, that which country should be the permanent members. Some countries has put forwarded the name of South Africa. Some countries has put forward the name of Nigeria. So there is a continuously conflict, or say mm, there is a mismatch of interest that who should be the permanent member. Then again, India has also created in December 2023 contours of cooperation. India look forwarded to get the support of GCC countries, Gulf Cooperation countries. But within that Gulf Cooperation countries, GCC, UAE, Oman, and Bahrain has extended their support to the India for the permanent membership. But still, countries like Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Qatar has not yet stated that India should be permanent member of this UNSC. Then again, last time Prime Minister has openly called for UNSC reform at the G20 summit, that the reform in the UNSC is need of the hour. Then again, I would like to conclude with some opinion that there seems to be no immediate possibilities that there should reform should be instantly take place. there is no possibility as of now. But India should continue to pressurize for this reform. At UN is not represented in the entire globe. These permanent 5 members who are become part of this UN when UN was created in 1945. The reform is need of the hour. Further, the role of international community is significant here. India should continuously make a strong relation with the international community, including the 5 members. Then India should also take part in, India should continue to take part in the UN-led missions or the objectives of the UN, whatever the missions that has been continuously led by UN. India should continuously support that objectives or mission. This will likely put forward India's candidature for the UNSC. Hope so. We will get this opportunity to become the permanent members sooner or later. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for that elaborative address. And to moving on with this discussion, uh, we we should also get reminded that India's large population significantly shapes its political economy, as being the reserve of labor, consumer, and the biggest electoral power. The demographic strength drives the domestic demands and also influences the governmental policy agendas and acts as an attractive factor for the foreign investments as well. So to elaborate more on this, I would now like to invite Kamal Madishetty, who is a researcher on the international politics from Jawaharlal Nehru University. He was formerly a senior researcher at the Institute of Peace and Conflict Studies in New Delhi. In 2023, he was appointed as the Indian representative at Y20, the G20's official youth consultation forum. In this capacity, he articulated India's position on various policy issues and led efforts towards building consensus among youth representatives from G20 countries. He had also previously worked at the Economist Intelligence Unit, Vision India Foundation, and the Institute of Defense Analysis and Studies in New Delhi. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Kritika ji, and all the organizers of this very timely panel discussion. And thanks to the opportunity to be part of this wonderful panel. A lot of important points have already been made, and I think I can't emphasize enough the importance of looking at a question of demography for a country like India. For a country of the size of India, population is probably one of the most important topics of discussion, or at least should be the most important topics of discussion. Yet, I think it is remarkable that there's so little discussion about it from that perspective. So, thanks to the organizers for organizing a discussion on a topic like this. So, I think I won't get into too much of the discussion about the importance of demographic dividend. I think that has been established. But just to remind ourselves a few numbers, I think India last year in 2023 surpassed China as the most populous country in the world. We obviously don't know exactly when, but sometime last year is when it is estimated to have happened. But it is also important to note that India's population is stabilizing, not necessarily exploding. So that's a good thing. And we can, obviously that also has implications for the future, which I think we should also look at. But as of now, we have an opportunity because almost 68% of our population is in the working age, which means that there is going to be an availability of a larger workforce. And this is particularly coming at a time when population is falling in other parts of the world. So that is the opportunity. But the relationship between population and economic growth is not one-to-one mapping. It is a complicated relationship, and it is riddled with a number of challenges. One is, of course, job creation. There are several estimates. We don't have to look at one particular estimate, but the bottom line is that we require a lot of jobs in the years to come. We have already generated a lot of jobs in the last few years, but that momentum has to continue. But there is also going to be the challenge of stress on the available resources as a result of population. The health infrastructure, there will be pressure on that. There will be pressure on the on the state in general, but also in general the economy about regarding to the provision of quality education. That is going to be an important area where the pressure will be felt. But also, both be it health or education, these are not just areas where it merely increasing the spending will do. The quality of spending also is important, and so is the need for reforms in the way health and education is provided in the country. And to add to all this, climate change is going to make it more complicated, because that will bring in its own set of challenges with respect to population, other associated challenges like migration, etc. So what is it that we, or what are the actions, the various actions that have to be taken in order to capitalize on the opportunity and minimize the challenges? I think many suggestions and many points have already been made, but if I have to just touch upon a few, or rather the most pressing ones. One, as I think one of the panelists already has talked about, increasing the labor participation is important. But if we have to unpack it a little bit and try to understand how that will happen, certainly it has to come from the from generating sort of conducive environment for investments, particularly in the manufacturing sector. Yes, and in what way? I mean, whether manufacturing will be or what share of the jobs that are to be generated will or should come from manufacturing that is an open question. But there is no denying that manufacturing sector has to be an important part of the way in which we leverage our population, or we leverage this workforce that we are talking about. There again, I think the initiative of Atmanirbhar Bharat becomes extremely important. Right? It has so many layers of drivers to it, and population is certainly one of them. Job creation is certainly one of them. They are not the only factors. There are also strategic reasons. There are also international relations. There's a perspective of that on Atmanirbhar Bharat. There's a security perspective as well. But this is very much a core driver of Atmanirbhar Bharat, and the reason why something like that should continue and should get greater focus. What this also means is that to also caution ourselves about what should not be done, along with what should be done, are policy flip-flops and populism that will dent investments. I'll give you an example. I come from the state of Telangana. After the new government here came in, they came up with in fact, one of their 6 election promises here was that they would provide for free bus tickets for women. Now, on the face of it, something like that sounds nice, right? It looks good, but look at the cascading effects of something like that. The metro footfall dramatically reduced because of a policy like this. The company which invested in the metro, in the Hyderabad metro, started recalculating and recalibrating its approach towards investments in that particular area. Now, this is the kind of signal that we don't want to send out to investors, because if there is no certainty of policy, and tomorrow if a government can come in and can carry out flip-flops like this, that will send a very negative example. And this is not the only example. There are several of them. Neighboring state from Telangana is Andhra, where in the last 5 years, for example, there have been a number of flip-flops, including flip-flops on the very question of something like setting up a capital, a political capital, a commercial capital, etc. These are the things that we will have to avoid, because investments won't happen when you have flip-flops that are so glaring like these. The other is that the infrastructure build-up that we have experienced in the last particularly 10 years has to continue. And it is tremendous that if you look at the capital expenditure that we've seen it is actually extraordinary if we compare it to Indian standards. The amounts and the budgets that have gone into creating infrastructure are phenomenal, and that is something that is much needed, because again, that forms the base of investment promotion, of building a good manufacturing sector. I would say building any economic activity for that matter. This again means, and the other aspect of this is that, or if I have to say what is not to be done, is that we should not be shying away from reforms. We saw, especially during the COVID period and the instability around that time, especially on the streets, that there was a lot of opposition towards reforms in the agricultural sector. One of our colleagues in the panel, she spoke about she made a very important point about the need for moving people who are engaged in disguised unemployment in the field of agriculture. So in the field of agriculture, and this is a consensus view, there is absolutely no two ways about it, that the number of people employed in the agricultural sector are far more than what is required. Now, if we were to move people away from the agricultural sector, that will mean that we have to make, first of all, the existing agricultural workers more productive. We need to bring in reforms that can actually help the small farmers, because currently our system is skewed in favor of the big farmers. Big farmers who don't necessarily encourage the kind of productivity that we expect from the agricultural sector. We have to take hard decisions. For example, taxation is very lopsided as well. The agricultural sector, even if you're making hundreds of crores in the agricultural sector, you are not taxed. But if you're making a few lakhs, you are, right? So these are contradictions that we will have to openly discuss and talk about, because these have very serious implications in the years to come. So there's that. Then there is also the need to ease labor reforms, which again won't happen automatically. What this means is that tough decisions like these need the backing of the media, the intelligentsia, the academia, if it has to stand a chance to overcome the kind of resistance that is very natural, that will come from the vested interest, so to say, because this is a very clear logic, because when you take economic reforms, the benefits are spread out very thinly, but spread out throughout the country or among a large population. But the people who might lose out are very concentrated. And when you have those sort of groups consolidate and put pressure on the state, that leads to sort of halting of such economic reforms. Now, that is not to say that those who stand to lose should not be compensated. They should be. There should be ways and means in which those who stand to lose from economic reforms have to be compensated or rehabilitated, or have to be shown an alternative route. But there is a limit to that, right? There is a limit to what you can do, and what and that should be done. Whatever can be done should be done. But beyond that, it is really the responsibility of the larger populace to ensure that there is always a demand from the population or the citizens of the country that the economic reforms momentum is continued. So that is about the labor participation. Now, the other thing that also is essential is that labor productivity also has to be increased. Now, to increase the labor productivity, as has already been mentioned by earlier panelists, skill development will be extremely important, which basically means that we have to provide employable skills, particularly for the young population. We need to focus on industry relevant vocational training, and that is and should be far more important than just degrees alone, because that is how countries of the size of India can make use of the kind of demographic dividend that we enjoy. That will only come when the skills are relevant to the industry and to are sort of relevant to employability. Because in fact, you will be, there was this very interesting statistic that the unemployment rate among India's illiterate is actually lower than the unemployment rate among the literate population. So that kind of is alarming, but also that tells you that the need for focusing and recalibrating our education, our skilling, our vocational training to make it more industry relevant, right? So that is going to be extremely important. The other thing as part of this is also to increase the focus on Indic languages. Our languages can be a great strength provided we invest in the kind of resources that they deserve. The government's decision, for example, to make available technical education material in native languages, native Indian languages, is therefore a very important step. And there needs to be there need to be more such steps so that people have high quality material, educational material available in their own languages and not necessarily only in English. So that is also going to be important, because vocational training happens in a very efficient manner when it happens in people's native languages rather than a language that they don't necessarily identify with. So that is also going to be important. And ultimately, I think there also has to be a bit of a mindset change at the individual level, because I mean, it's a very vibrant set of participants that we have, and also I'm sure others who will join us online. But one of the things, one of the legacies, or one of the a very entrenched mindset that we have in our society is that government is seen as a giver of jobs rather than a facilitator of jobs. That again is a mindset that needs to change. The government is not there to just sign a blank check and say, I'm going to create a lakh jobs tomorrow. I mean, it can do that.
I think there is
I think sir has lost the due to network issue.
Meanwhile, we have some questions which are already in the chat. Kamal sir will be joining very shortly. Till then, we can take one or two questions from there.
Sure, sir. I think we can. I would now like to invite Kusuma to handle the Q&A session. Kusuma, please.
Thanks, Kritika. So we have 4 to 5 questions, but due to the paucity of time, let's take each question for the speaker. So the first question from Nancy Sharma. She asks, what are some effective strategies to promote cultural exchange between the Indian diaspora and their home country, ensuring that the rich heritage and traditions are preserved and celebrated? Any speaker can take up the question. Am I audible, sir?
If ma'am is still here, maybe ma'am can take this question.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Kusuma, if you can just quickly repeat the question, just
Sure.
very briefly.
Sure. So the question is, what are some effective strategies to promote cultural exchange between the Indian diaspora and their home country, ensuring that the rich heritage and traditions are preserved and celebrated?
What are some of the strategies, right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. In the past, a few of our honorable Prime Minister's visits, if you look at certain few visits, even today, when I was scrolling through the social media, I saw Honorable Prime Minister sharing a video from Austria, which he happened to be in the last few days. He shared a very, very beautiful video where Austrian classical vocalists and classical instrument players were playing in a classical Western style the Indian patriotic song Vande Mataram. So this sort of, I personally am an artist. I practice and I teach Bharatnatyam. So it really set the ball rolling amongst our community, and we started questioning ourselves that if a particular Western cultural a community adapt an Indian song with such finesse, what strategies can we do to sort of facilitate this exchange? Our purists, like purist and classical art forms, be it Bharatnatyam, be it visual art forms, be it performing art forms like Bharatnatyam, other classical arts, are we open to adapting a Swan Lake performance, which is a very, very, prominent Western ballet style of performance in our cultural presentation? So this exchange needs to happen. We need to also change at our ends and sort of welcome a Western classical, cultural exchange in our styles of performance and keep this exchange going on. This is one strategy. We as purists need to rethink on our value system and our exchange possibility of exchanging, adapting from Western classical arts. Secondly, if you talk about strategies that are in place right now, like we have India centers, which are doing really, really well in disseminating Indian art and the knowledge of Indian art and culture abroad, that is very, very effectively doing so. We have very good Indian ICCR empaneled artists who go and teach the Indian art and culture to the Western, rasikas or people who admire the art there. So this is a bond that has been, facilitating the exchange of cultural, practices, especially in the performing arts segment. Secondly, while I was also looking at it from a more IR perspective, I realized that in the past few visits that Indian Prime Minister had taken before he was elected the third term also, one very, very classical visit of his was to our neighboring country of Bhutan. Now, coming from being in Gujarat for the last how many years, I realized that it is very unusual for Bhutanese to adapt a Bhutanese, performance, but give it a Garba track, a Garba feel, and a Garba, do a Garba on it. So this is something that I was also stressing before I made this point on ICCR, that this exchange has to be twofold. We also need to sort of adapt and express Western cultures in our traditional art expressions. And the West is doing well, I would say, in finally recognizing our cultural and soft power is, at display. And I would say this is the right way to go about it.
Thank you, ma'am. So I invite Kamal sir again. Sir, we have lost you for the network issues. So could you please continue your remarks?
Sure. Yeah, my apologies. I got dropped off because of an interruption in the connection. I just had a couple of points which I will make very quickly to conclude what I was saying. Just to add that the other sort of challenge that I wanted to flag was, which has already been flagged before, which is the need to reduce regional, differences and disparities when it comes to economic growth and our population. And I think there, of course, there are a number of things which have been discussed, both in this discussion and outside. But the ones I think which are going to be extremely important are to address the urban-rural divide, to address the urban governance challenges that we are currently facing and we will likely we are likely to face in the future because of the increasing importance of cities and towns in our economic growth, which will only increase in the years to come. There, I think there is a very important and urgent need for decentralization, so that our urban governments are more, have better functions and are also empowered in terms of their finances, because the problems at the local level are best solved, according to many scholars, at the local level. So what can be fixed at the local level should be fixed at the local level, and people and public representatives have to be empowered for that, which is not necessarily the case today in our system, because we have mostly the bureaucracy making decisions and allocating sometimes finances at the local level, which can be better and more efficiently distributed if it were to be left for the public representatives themselves. The sort of final point I wanted to make is that just to look into the future, like I mentioned, climate change can bring its own set of challenges, not just within the country but also around the country and across the world. We have a neighboring country, for example, in Bangladesh, where the rising sea levels are going to displace a lot of population. Now that means that we policymakers have to be prepared for challenges like that, because there are real sort of concerns related to migration when it comes to India's neighborhood, and which again can increase in the years to come. Apart from that, I think currently we enjoy a great demographic dividend. We have a youth bulge in our population, but eventually things will change, which means that it is kind of now or never when it comes to leveraging population for economic growth. If it does not happen now, it may never happen. So that tells you the kind of urgency of something like this, because there was a UN report which came out last year. It's called the India Aging Report, and that predicts that there will be 41% growth in elderly population between 2021 and 2031 itself. So that's not too far away anyway. And by 2046, there may be more elderly than children below the age of 15. In 2021, for example, there were 39 elderly for every 100 children out there, and 16 elderly for every 100 working age individuals. By 2050, 20% of India's population will be elderly, and by 2100, 1/3 of India's population will be over 60. So today's economic growth will ensure that the elderly population for many decades to come, will live a secure life, because if you have to look at the way aging happened in developed countries, these kind of processes took about 150 to 200 years. But the same processes are going to happen in a matter of 50 years in developing countries, particularly in India. So, and the developed countries enjoyed a far higher per capita income when their populations aged. So that may not be the case for us. So that highlights the criticality and the urgency of addressing and looking at policy questions from the perspective of population. I think, but I think the sort of silver lining in that is that the direction of our policy has been, largely in the correct direction. But there are all of these different challenges which I think have to be overcome, which I think provide enough food for thought for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We'll resume our Q&A session. So due to the paucity of time, we would take only one question for each speaker. So this is for Rajkumar, sir. How can we engage the younger generation of the Indian diaspora who might feel more disconnected from their roots to foster a stronger sense of identity and connection with India?
Thank you so much, Kusuma. I think these three questions, the first question and the second question and fourth question, I think that's take together. It's fine. And I don't find like any problem in this second generation diaspora. They are like, yeah, they face different challenges, no doubt. But as far as India's approach is concerned, India has taken so many steps, so many initiatives that these steps are enough to deal with first generation migrants or second generation migrants, as well as this embedding them in the domestic population. Actually, we don't need to do so. Indian diaspora living outside has started living a different sort of life. Okay, they are assimilated in a different culture. Maybe you are Harsh is having this question in his mind because he's maybe comparing American society with Indian society. But American society is not salad bowl model. That is melting pot model. Okay, so they are living a different sort of life. Indian culture as well as American culture, like both cultures, they are living together. So it's not that we have to think about keeping them in this particular limitation of Indian identity. Whatever they are, let them be. Let's not think about it. Whenever they decide which kind of life they want to live after returning back or in America, that's up to them. in their this like country of residence. Other than that, this second generation migration question, second question, I think we have taken enough steps as far as this ethnic media is concerned. When you talk about diaspora, they have their own ethnic media, local media, and they do very well in enabling this kind and creating this kind of feeling of togetherness among people. So they are also doing very good job as far as Indian initiatives are concerned. It's like nowadays this you can say broadcasting movies with the help of all these you can say OTT platforms. That is available. If someone wants to be affiliated with that kind of idea, they can easily watch those movies also. So many diaspora museums are there. Diasporas have made their own museum reflecting and representing Indian identity. Such kind of initiatives are there. Weekly, monthly programs are being organized by their own groups that they have formed there in almost all the countries, whether that is, we can say semi-skilled migration or skilled migration. Even in some of the unskilled migrants, they have some sort of, bonding there. So such kind of things are happening. Conferences are constantly taking place. Nowadays, government has started emphasizing on Indian knowledge system, Indian knowledge tradition, also this Hindu studies, this thing. So in coming times, such kind of courses will be available in these universities also. So they can have such kind of courses also when we talk about second generation kids. Other than that, this the normal population which is there, they are also engaged with such kind of this thing. And cultural exchange programs happen when we talk about these countries. So Indian culture is there, the culture of that country is there. So such kind of programs are also there. So I don't think that there is kind of any gap in it. It's not that Indian initiatives are lacking. We are doing enough, and we can go ahead with that. Whether it's about Pravasi Tirth Darshan Yojana is there, when all the people, like Indian government is calling them, like providing all the resources that you can come and just see all the Tirth places. So that is the best technique actually to teach them, to tell them about India's culture and heritage and everything. Then PBD, Pravasi Bharatiya Divas is another this thing. Okay. Then international practice of practice of some kind of Indian practices like yoga and other kind of things like this concept of ahimsa and everything. So they have become popular. So we just have to make them more popularized. That is our job, to just popularize our strengths. So in all these things we are doing it. Other than that, this scholarship programs for diaspora kids, children. So that is another thing that we are providing scholarships to them, so they can just be part of it. And then so somehow Indian government is trying to engage with this new, this second generation diaspora by this also. Then I think what is India's strength in this particular thing is this kind of this family bonding thing. There are so many stories of Indian diaspora people that they have to face when they go to any institution, maybe in educational institutions and sometimes in some other institutions also, that they are exploited on the basis of being this second generation diaspora. But even after that, if they are affiliated with their family, if they have that thing, then they will always have courage to fight with all these things, because exploitation is faced by almost all the diasporic communities. It's not that it's not new. It's not that it doesn't exist, but we are making enough efforts. We are here to work for their image. They are improving our image and profile. So that way we are going ahead, and I think it's going in the right this thing. But as far as their thinking is concerned, we have to provide them right ideas. Okay, because when you are in India, you know that which kind of things are happening in India also. Today only I saw a case when 8-year-old girl was raped by some student boy, like this students. So it happens. So that is there, but right ideas we have to provide them, and that we can do from all the initiatives that we have taken. For example, Anish Shaman talked about this Vande Mataram painting. Okay, so such kind of things are happening. So we just have to take motivation from them and then provide it to the first generation, this thing to connect culturally. The first question, whether it's about traditional traditions and other kind of thing. Then second question about second generation kids, and third, embedding them in the Indian identity, which is there. Okay. Other than that, Bharat Ko Jano quiz and other kind of things are also there, which are happening, and I think that is very good that we are doing. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the extensive elaboration of the points. And the next question we have from social media platforms as well. So the next question is for Avinash, sir. So there are a lot of multilateral groupings that are proactive in contribution for economic growth, like ASEAN, SAARC, G20. So how can these help India's population in leveraging the output, as UNSC reforms are also much required, but they are delayed?
Can you please repeat the question, Vishnu?
Yes, sir. So there are a lot of multilateral groupings which are proactive in contribution for economic growth, like ASEAN, G20, SAARC, etc. So how can you see these help India's population in leveraging the output, as UNSC reforms are much more required, but they are delayed?
Actually, these all platforms are altogether a different. These all organizations are a small group of countries. UN is a platform of more than 193 countries. These platforms are just you can say that if UN is an umbrella, these platforms is just a small representation of few countries. We can put forward we can use this platform to use the demographic dividend, but we cannot completely rely on this. India has a strong demographic dividend, but this doesn't mean that these platforms is significant, but completely not at all put forward what India's permanent membership is looking for.
Yes, sir. So there is a network issue on my end. I couldn't hear your end part. So I think it is only my side, right? Yes. Okay. Okay. There is one more question for Kamal, sir. So it's on, we have sourced it from our Instagram. So keeping India's multi-party system at consideration, how do you feel we can create minimum consensus regarding key policy making among cross-party lines?
Well, that's a very good question and a difficult question, because I think most of what I said really points to a lot of these systemic problems where because where not necessarily the best perspective comes out on the top sometimes in our system because of various reasons. I think the best way really is to have simple things like greater awareness. I think greater awareness is not much to ask for, at least among youth who have access to good information. If somebody does not have access to information, that is still, I would say, excusable. But when we do live in an age of social media where things are really at the disposal of just a click on our phone, there's no really nothing that there can't be a justification for a lack of awareness. Again, there can't be a justification at the individual level, but I think there can't be a justification even at the governmental level. So the government also has the responsibility to better articulate the need and urgency of economic reforms. They must invest in better sort of public education when it comes to economic reforms. I'll just give you an example. On Samvad TV, for example, there was a brilliant initiative that came about where there were economists who were explaining the need for economic reforms. They went back to the very basics so that people are more sort of immersed in the logic of better economic reforms and why they are important in order for job creation, in order to leverage a population, in order to empower youth rather than make them dependent on any particular sort of party or any particular scheme. So those kinds of initiatives, I think, have to also happen at the popular level. We don't have, for example, movies that talk about, let's say, 1991 economic reforms. We are only now making movies, and there are popular movies now on famous, let's say, military operations and things like that, which is extremely important. But similarly, I think there has to be a popular culture engagement with the political economy questions as well. That has been long overdue, because if we were to see, if all of us and the generations after us are to see and appreciate the difference that economic prosperity can make to our society and our individual lives, and that's how that changes lives. I think there will definitely be greater appreciation and greater consensus among the population. And once I think there is a consensus among the population, I think the political parties will have to naturally follow. But yeah, it's a tough task, but I think looking at the basics might help.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the thoughtful answer. So due to the limited availability of time, I would like to end the Q&A session and would like to deliver the vote of thanks. So today's panel actually says it all, and that India's strength lies in its young population. We are extremely pleased to see young researchers of India to contribute to the fresh perspectives, innovative ideas, and in-depth research with a comprehensive understanding on India's demographic dynamics. RLA team would like to express gratitude to the special focus by Anadrisha ma'am, Rajkumar sir, Avanish Kumar sir, and Kamal Madhishetty sir. So not just all the panelists have equally stressed on dynamic reforms to be required to leverage on Bharat's population for Atmanirbhar Bharat. Secondly, on a warm note, thanks to all the participants who attended our session today. Last but not the least, we would like to thank the RLA team who worked tirelessly behind the scenes. Live tweets were written by the team while the webinar was on. Everyone can follow us on all the social media handles and stay tuned for the future webinars and please keep coming for our next session. We will now take the permission of our respected speakers to bring the session to a close.